Hi, my name's Carty and I am here today and we're going to make a ceramic tile, fish tile, and this tile is going to be just a basic tile, something simple, something you can do at home, and we're going to use probably things that you will find around the house that would be common things like rolling pins and wood and stuff like that. And I'm going to show you a sample just now in a minute of what exactly the tile could look like, and we're going to do different variations today. So we'll start off with the clay. The clay today that I'm using, this clay is actually a stoneware clay, and I buy this clay from a pottery supply shop, and so you don't have to use this type of clay. You can actually use an air dry clay, and you can buy your air dry clay in your local art shop. And if you call to your art shop or go online, they will actually advise you on different clays you can get and you can use. Some of these clays the air dried ones can be used in the oven, and I would recommend that if you're going to be using any clay that's going to the oven, make sure to get help with your parents or make sure it's been supervised. But for today, this clay is stoneware clay because I use a high fire kiln, and no different, just different temperature ratings. So we're going to start off with this basic piece of clay. So this is the clay. So what I need to do, I'm going to make a tile and I want to roll this flat. So to roll it flat, you're going to have to use one of these, Mummy's rolling pin. Every house has one, so I decided to go with these simple pieces. When I'm in my studio, I have a machine that does this for me, and it's a slab roller. But for today, I'm sure everybody doesn't have a slab roller, so I'm going to start off. What I do is I slowly roll the piece flat. So we flip it around, continually rolling with your two hands, just like that. And you keep flipping the piece around, and the reason I flip it around like that is so that it rolls evenly on both sides. Now, as you can see, the thickness of this, we want it not too thin, but we want it quite thick as well. So when you're rolling it, keep checking the thickness of the actual clay so that you're getting it even. Now, and if you're not sure that you're rolling it even, you can put two long pieces of wood either side and roll it, and you'll get a nice level piece of clay that we can cut our tile out of. Now, the reason I'm rolling it like this is so that I'm going to come along later on, I'm going to cut a square tile out of it, but I need it a little bit bigger than what I actually wanted the tile to be. So the bigger I make this, the more chances that the actual piece will be more even, and when I cut my tile out, I'll have a nice perfect piece to go with. Now, one thing when you're rolling tile and you're doing this kind of work, try not to bend it too much, because clay has a memory. So if I was, for example, to do that, which is not recommended, clay will have a memory and you'll end up it'll warp. So when you're moving it, try to always keep the piece as level as possible. Kind of like baking a cake. I don't do much baking. Now, so once you have your piece rolled out like that, next thing you can do is we're going to cut a square tile. So when I'm cutting out a square tile, I have these, what we call in pottery business, wooden bats. And these bats, we use them on the pottery wheel for throwing cups. So when we're throwing the cups, we place the bat on the wheel and we put our clay on it, and then as it spins around, we make our cups. And these are just helpful for when you want to pick the cup off the wheel. And it makes it easier for us to dry things out, but everything that we do is all, like, we can always multitask different tools. And so like, it's a square tile, and I've written tile on it actually. So we'll put the tile down like that. If you don't have a piece of wood or a square one, you can actually just make up, get a bit of cardboard, and you can actually cut the cardboard into 6 inches, because this is about 6 inches square. And if you get a cornflakes box and you cut the cornflakes box, and there's always one straight edge, you can actually measure over 6 inches this way, and then just cut the box out and make it a bit easier. But then again, it doesn't have to be straight, it doesn't have to be perfectly square, because sometimes things that you make by hand, it's nice to see the imperfections in them. It shows that it's handmade. So here we go. We take off our square tile, remove the excess clay, and this we'll use later on. This clay is actually going to be recycled, so that's how we start off with our square tile. Now at this point, as I said before, clay has a memory, so we don't want to move it too much, or we want to try to keep it as flat as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this tile onto this piece of wood. I'm going to flip it around. There we have it. Voila. Because this wood I use is MDF, it absorbs any moisture from the clay, and it makes it easier to work on. But because I want to be moving this around a good bit, and now I have it on the wooden bat, so you can see that it's easier to manage. And if I want to kind of flip it around, or I want to work this way or that way, the tile will always remain flat while I'm working on it, and I won't get, hopefully, any warping in my end tile, which, if it dries uneven on either side, that's what normally happens. Now, so I'm going to put this aside, and the next piece I'm going to do is making the fish. So for this tile, I'm just going to go and I would normally draw out a pattern, but for this I'm just going to freestyle it. And I'm thinking maybe in the pictures I have included in the examples, there is a lot of fish in those tiles. They're stock images, so I'm just going by the general idea. I don't want to copy somebody else's work, so I'm going to do my own version of what I like. I want to make it my own. And this time around, I'm just going to cut out some fish shapes. So I'm just taking my craft knife. This is just any craft knife, you'll buy them in any art shop. Always be careful when using craft knives. They can be sharp. Now I'm cutting my fish, and when I use the craft knife, if you want, you can actually use a needle or something. And you can draw out your shape before you cut. I'm going to make my fish, I don't want them all the same size, I want them different. And maybe I might do a few more than I need. But I'm just going to draw them out here basically. When I cut the fish, I'm going to go in at an angle, and I hold the knife at an angle of 45 degrees so that I can actually, I'll show you why in a minute. So that's the fish, and I'll cut the tail straight. Now the reason I do that is that fish is kind of a round shape, so if I cut the fish out at an angle at this way, as you can see, this is beveled. When I'm actually going to make the fish and I'm going to put a shape on them, he'd be a bit more round, because if I was to cut him square, like, he would be a very boring looking fish. He's just, but you can do that too. It depends on what you like yourself. But me, I like my fish wonky. I'll try another one here. Now then, when I've gotten to a point, I will remove excess clay, and we should be left with some fish shapes. They're not there yet, but they will be soon. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fish, and so now I'll look at the ones and I'll pick out the ones I like. So I like this one, I like this one, and we will scrap these guys, and this one is okay. So we've 4 fish I like. Now, and then with the excess clay, I just remove that, and we can recycle this clay so nothing gets wasted. Now, here we have my 4 fish. Next thing I'm going to do, because this is why I beveled them, I'm going to actually put the shape into them. Now, I don't want them to look like, these are my versions of fish, but if you can kind of do whatever shape you like. I've done in the past koi fish. I like koi fish. They're mythical fish from Japan, and rumor has it that the koi fish, if it swims up a waterfall, it turns into a dragon. But there'll be no dragons here today. Now what I do, I just push down the parts, the edges, and then I'm going to smooth out the clay. Rub your fingers across it. Same with these again. So it's just all I'm doing is taking away that sharp edge, push down with the, take the line away, and I just cutting out a little bit of the back here to make, because fish, their tail is a little bit thinner at the back. Little fishy. One, two, three, 4 fish. And now when I get to this point, I just get a sponge, and I'll just rinse the sponge in a little bit of water, and I'll sponge down the fish. Not because they like the water, it's just because it tidies them up a little bit and prepares them for the next thing I'm going to do. You don't have to be too fussy about your fish. They don't have to be exact fish shapes. They can be just look a little bit like fish. Now, for the next part of these fish, I'm going to have to make them look like fish. So this is netting. It comes off, you can get it in Tesco's, and what it is really is just the wrapping of orange bags, fruit bags. So like, if you eat a lot of fruit, like, you should have loads of these in your house. So every house has them. So if you look around your fruit basket or whatever, and you'll find something similar. But it's a great material because it's got kind of a fishnet a peel and it's made of plastic, so all you have to do, when you have it, you'll just take this piece, put it over your fish, and just gently, after you sponge your fish, gently push the netting into the fish. The whole way down. Do his head, the whole lot. Do all 4 of them at once. Make sure you get plenty of fishy scales on them. You can get this material if you buy oranges in any fruit shop. You can buy these bags.
Would you just say that again? Sorry.
You can buy, if you can get this material in any, these bags come in any fruit shop. Now, and then when you're finished, this is where the magic happens. So all I do now is lift up my orange wrapper, and there we are, voila, we're left with scaly texture on our fish. But that's not enough yet, like, we have to give them a head. So these guys, this is a tool we use in pottery, is for throwing pots on the pottery wheel. But if you won't have one of these, but you can use an old bank card or something like that. And what I would do, I'm going to put a line down to define his head. So we'll put their heads there somewhere. Now, and I'm going to rub my finger over the head, because I'm going to take the scaly part off his head. And for his tail, I'm going to use this end of it. I'm just going to do little lines, like dig it into it like that. Do all the tails the same. Now they're starting to look a bit more like fish. Could be the salmon of knowledge. Could be some folklore. But I'm going to do the mouths next. So it's the same thing, using the same tool. Shove it into his mouth, just right up to the top where his mouth should be. Just stick it in. We'll give him a big mouth, actually. These fish like to talk. They're happy fish. Yeah, no, so then when I have the fish, I can lay them out, and I'm going to kind of want to put these onto my tile that I prepared earlier. Now the tile is drying and is kind of getting a bit more to the stage where I can stick these onto it, but they've no eyes. So what I'm going to do for eyes, I'm going to use this as just a little bit of a car aerial that I found, and I just give them a little poke in the eye. There's his eye, or her eye. And also fish have scales on the top, so I'm just going to use this to all using the same tools, simple things that you can find around the house. Everything is a tool. You can if you don't have a credit card, you can use a butter knife or anything really, like a Billy the fish sorted. Now, there's our fish is ready. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to mount the fish onto our tile. And I'm going to bring the tile back into the picture. This is our tile. Now the tile at the moment, the edges are slightly rough, so I'm going to just give these edges, pick it up. I can pick it up now because it's on this wooden bat and that keeps it flat. So I'm just going to give the tile a little sponge down, same as what we done with the fish. Rub the top, rub it all down. That will give it a good surface for me to stick the fish to. Then I'll decide where I'm going to put the fish. So there's no rules where I put them. I can put them wherever I like, and you can do the same yourself. So I'm going to put this guy kind of coming off the edge of it. Have him kind of as if he's swimming up the way. And I want his tail linging over the edge too. You know, it gives it a bit more. It's more fun. I mightn't use all of these fish, like, but this guy then, maybe here. That's where he lives. Another guy kind of going off on this edge. And what do we do to the last fella? We'll put him in here. So no rules. But these fish look like they're jumping out of the water. But I want my fish to be underwater. So how do I do that? I'm going to have to create bubbles. So to create bubbles, you can use a biro or something. I have a bit of a copper pipe. And all I got, one side is thinner and one side is thick. So I'm going to use this to create my bubbles. So how do I do that? I just going to go with the thin side first. We do 1, 2, 1, 2. We do some bubbles here. And then I'll use the other side, which is the thick side. And this side then, we don't want to put too many bubbles. We're going to, I don't think fish blow too many bubbles, but it's just to give it that underwater effect. Less is better sometimes. And then we take, this is the same piece I use for making their eye. If you don't have, you can also use skewers, cocktail sticks, same thing. So I'll use, this is just for making kebabs, barbecue. Summer's coming, hopefully somebody will get the chance to do, but for now I'll just use this. It might be something that you have, you can use a pencil either. So I'm just going to do 2 of these beside each of my bubbles. 2, 2, 2, 2 here, 2 there. That's our bubbles done. I'm also going to put in some waves. You don't have to do waves or bubbles if you don't like. You can always just, it's up to you. You decide. Your fish, different to my fish, but my fish like bubbles. And then one of the most important things is always to write your name on things. I have this stamp. So I don't sign things anymore, I just use a stamp. So I just have, these are just little letters I put together and it says my name on it. So I put my name down there, but you can write your name there. Every time you make something, you should always write it so people knows who done it. So I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit, and what I sometimes I just kind of come in around the corners, give it a little bit more depth. I always check it to make sure that there's no sharp pieces sticking out, because when this dry, it will dry pretty hard and you might cut yourself on any sharp bits sticking out. But that's the clay work done. That's my piece, and I'd be happy with that. So after you're finished making the piece, the next part you have to do will be to let the tile sit and dry for about 4 to 5 days. And once it's dry enough, it'll come out and it'll be completely white. All the moisture will have left the tile, and if you're using the air dry clay, it should be hard enough to paint. And you can use whatever paint you have at home. You can use poster paints, acrylics, even oil paint will work, and it'll dry pretty quick because when this is dry, it will be porous, so it will absorb and any moisture or liquid paint you put on it pretty quickly. You don't have, what I would just paint it a blue, a sea blue, but it's up to you. You can paint it green, you can paint the bubbles any way you like. I'm going to include some sample pictures of finished pieces that I like. Also, you can put this into a picture frame. So what I do, I put my pieces, when they're finished and they're painted, I put them into a picture frame just like this. This is a simple frame that you can buy for €3 to €4. So you can get them in any hardware shops, and they come in this plastic container. So when you buy it, you just take the plastic off the container. So you just take off the plastic, and there's little pieces at the back. You just pry these up, you take out the wood out the back, and you take this bit of paper out from the center, and when your tile is dry and you have it painted and you're happy with it, you can actually mount it to that using a heavy duty glue or silicone, and make sure to write your name on the white bit of paper so that everyone knows it was you that done it, because you have to let the artist involved. These frames are also quite good too, because these they have plastic perspex instead of glass, so they're safe to use. Whereas they used to come with a glass. Used to be glass on the front, and sometimes the glass would break when you're using it. So they're user friendly, they're cheap and affordable and fun to use. Like, so that's the frame. You don't have to put it in a frame. I've also included pictures of the piece on its own, and what you can do if you don't want to put it in the frame and you just like it the way it is, you can put a hole in the back or a bit of wire, and you can just hang it when it's painted on your wall, and you can stick it onto your bedroom door, you can put it on your bedroom wall, you can put a little hanger on the top. So if you don't want to put it in a frame, that's okay, that's up to you. You can decide what to do with it. It's your tile, you're the artist. You can give it to your friend, family member. But this one, I like this because it reminds me of the fish jumping in the Garvogue River here in Sligo, and being so in the library here close to the river, I kind of really liked the idea of doing the fish. So that concludes my video for my fish tile piece. I'm going to let this dry, and it will take me about a week, 2 weeks for it to dry, and when it's finished I'm going to paint this and I'm going to mount it into this frame, and I'll include the pictures at the end of this video. And I just want to thank everyone for watching this video today, and just have fun and stay creative, and thank you, bye.